Hello and welcome to the show, and we're going to start with a reunion of sorts.
Yes, we have. Well, it's been years since I've been on this bike, and it was the first trip I went around the world with Ewan, and it was actually quite nice to be able to climb onto the 1150 again and have some memories and realised what a big old monster it is.
Well, we are on about 50 iterations on the GS line, so it's time to talk about the R1250.
But which is better?
Well, on paper, it really should be the 1250, but the question I wanted to answer was, would the 1150 sort of capture your heart? Last time round on Old versus New, I had the great pleasure of riding my old Fireblade and comparing it against a brand new one.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Old v new, you know, when you're a kid to now, you know, what was then, what is now. So what was your
on the Fireblade?
Go-to bike? Yeah, I mean, was it always the Fireblade that is you're the one you remember most, or I mean, if you were to choose one right now, what would you have? Don't think about it.
The Fireblade.
Fireblade.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd have a XR 600R Honda.
Yeah. The Fireblade's the one I've had for the longest. I've had it for 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
What, the same one or different?
Exactly the same
models?
one. Yeah.
Wow.
I had it for 20 years. Still going strong. 55,000 miles.
I never kept a bike that long, really. I never had that attachment. The only one that I really miss is that XR 600R. That was brutal. I mean, that thing would kickstart, and you couldn't walk up to it front ways, otherwise it would just say, "I'm not."
That was the
going to
enduro
start.
bike. XR. Yeah.
He said it wouldn't start. I'm just not going to start. So I'd have to sneak up behind it, jump on it, and start it really quickly, and then that would be fine.
Catch it
on the wares. But if you just confronted it head on, it was like, forget it.
I almost bought one of those my 950 Super Enduro KTM.
915 Super KTM.
Collectors now.
Kick 20 minutes, isn't it? That's what it stands for. Yeah.
Well,
What is it? Your KTM make bikes so that the public can test drive them.
I thought you loved KTMs.
I don't like KTMs. They don't. Well, they
Apparently.
let me down terribly. You know, they said that we didn't think we'd make it. I don't think it's up to them to decide whether or
You're not holding that bitterness close to your heart.
I'm completely and utterly close to it. I don't even close to my heart. It's right out there. No, I actually don't mind. I do quite like a KTM. I like the 250. I like the 250 four-stroke. Throttle though,
yeah.
you know, 500,
Yeah.
250.
Anyway,
there you go.
Old versus new.
Right.
I think there was only really one logical choice for you and I, because I've had one, you've had one.
Oh, so that was what the XR 600R. We're going to do those.
Well, I thought we were going to do KTMs.
Oh, okay. Well, how about these two bikes here that aren't just off camera? There we go. This is the old puppy. I remember this one. I really do. This is it's quite nostalgic, actually, this one, because this is the one that everything started with Ewan and I. So Ewan and I deliberated. It was always going to be between KTM and BMW, and I think Ewan always wanted the BMW. And I kind of wanted the KTM, but in hindsight, looking at it now, I just think thank whoever is around that we took these bikes, and these were brilliant, and it was and this was the bike at the time, and at the time this was the big adventure. We wanted to sit on a twin. We didn't want to sit on a single for those 4.5 months. I wanted big range, which we had, and you could carry lots of stuff. We carried way too much stuff.
But at the time, it was a bike
is.
that almost no one had heard of. I mean, you'd heard of it, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the household name it is now.
No, it wasn't. I mean, I suppose through Long Way, I think it became more popular. I don't think there was no intention of Ewan and I to make it that way. No. You know, we were just making a TV show and hope somebody might watch it.
Yeah.
You know, and but I suppose without even realizing, we kind of, it was a big TV advertising for it, wasn't it? But
it was the very best kind of advert.
I'd be really interested to see how this rides against the latest, which is the 1250,
so
and they're both
20 years difference.
Yeah.
Shaft drives on a different side. How many
Yeah.
horsepower? 50 horsepower difference. 30 kilos difference.
But you know, a lot of people say with these bikes, a lot of people say that I met a guy actually here. He's got the 1150, he's got the 12, he's got the 12 twin cam, he's got the 1250.
He's got the full collection, is
And
it?
he's got the full collection, and he said all of them, they all have their own characteristic, but they're all absolutely a GS. And that's what's interesting. So I'll be interested to see that. It's been about 12 years, or maybe longer, since I've ridden one of these.
Probably the same for me, actually, because it's been 12 years since I sold mine, so it'll be fascinating.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I think this has, on styling, I think this has it. Much more simple, much less plastic.
It's unique.
It's unique.
There it is. Oh my God, the amount of time I followed that shape is quite extraordinary.
So I only had my 1150 for 15, 18 months, but it feels so familiar, even though that was oh goodness me, 13, 14 years ago.
I mean, but the difference between the 1150 and this 1250, that is air cooled. This is water cooled. Oh, they've been water cooled for quite a while now. I mean, these haven't changed that much between the 1200 and the 1250. A lot of design and lots of features and usability has come through this. It's become a little bit more complicated.
Just a little bit.
The one thing I noticed about the 1200s and the 1250s is they've really got that first gear sorted out. When you're riding along, you just keep the power on, and you never have to let the power go. It just change up, and it just, whatever the timing does, it just changes it so it allows it to change up without having to come off the gas. When you change it, it does that it has this pop that is just heaven.
Yeah, I do remember very clearly riding behind my friend, and he just dropped the throttle, as you do, to change gear, approaching the roundabout, and this poor old boy was on the pavement walking his dog with his back to us, so he didn't hear us coming. As he changed down gear, he had a Remus exhaust, and the pop, this poor boy jumped out of his skin, honestly.
It's lovely, that pop. This bike would be probably faster than any sports bike. You get one good rider on this bike and one good rider on a sports bike on a really twisty country lane, and this bike will always go faster than a sports bike. And then you can go off road, you can sit on the motorway. I mean, it's very impressive.
Well, we were chatting earlier, and I said about it doesn't feel like 20 years difference.
No, it certainly does not.
Many viewers of the show over the years will know my blood does tend to run a bit orange, and I've got a 1290 KTM at the moment. But I've also had GS, and I've just had two XR BMWs. I love them as well.
Yeah.
I still think they're one of the most, although the shape has changed, it's still built around the boxer engine, so it's unmistakably still a GS.
I think this has a lot more snap, and the acceleration is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Woo! I love it.
We're here to talk about motorbikes.
We are, yes,
and
yes.
and it was interesting when we're riding here on the bikes. Hadn't been on a GS for quite a long time, and it was quite funny when we were pulling out. And the first thing I saw was that the shape of the old 1150 in my wing mirror, and that brought back all sorts of memories of when you and I were doing long way round. It's now like 18 years ago, but it brought back these lovely memories. It's a very beautiful bike.
Yeah, it is.
But how did it ride for you?
Well, as I mentioned when we were riding, I had one 17 years ago, 16 years ago, but I had the black and gold one.
Oh yeah.
And it was a real dream bike for me. That was like putting on an old slipper, even though I only had that bike for a year and a half, 15, 16 years ago.
You know, the BMW GS 1200 or 1250 is a bit like Apple, the Apple Store. Everybody in retail, everybody wants to be the Apple Store, don't they? And then I suppose all the rest of them are kind of Waitrose and Tesco's and Aldi, and so everyone sort of strives to that. But I think that gap has really narrowed.
It is.
When you look at all the other bikes.
There isn't a bad adventure bike out there, really.
No, there isn't.
No.
No.
And as I was saying, I think something like the Harley Davidson is creating its, on the first step to creating its own little niche.
Yeah,
because
and it's
so
already
different.
on the second generation now. But the difference between the Harley Davidson is that it's fully loaded at 16 grand, fully loaded.
Yes.
Whereas the GS starts at 16 and a half 17
Yep.
basic. Christ, you get a fully loaded GS
It's
and
20 grand
and
plus,
it's
isn't it?
20,
Yeah.
22, 23 grand.
Interestingly,
you
it's
know.
those second-hand ones, the 1150 second-hand.
Yeah.
I have a friend who just sold one for about 4, and I think the owner of this one said it's, I don't know, 4.5 grand.
Yeah.
That's still a fantastic bike for 4.5 grand.
Yeah.
It is. Well,
There you go.
time has come, so we're going to swap. You're going to ride your familiar old 1150, and I'm going to ride the 1250.
I don't want to give you the 1250. It's too nice.
Well, I'm actually quite keen to have a go on it, so I'm not
Well,
going
only
to
for
race
5
you
minutes.
for it. I'm not going to race
That's
you
it.
for it because that's
Oh well,
good.
no, neither of us could get there in time.
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Now it is time for the boys to do one of their unique interviews.
Yep, it's time for 10 in 10.
So back once again for 10 in 10, and I'm going to get straight into the questions. So, question 1. Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, I'm Vanessa Ruck, also known as the Girl on a Bike. I'm a motorcycle rider, racer and adventurer. Started off from a pretty strange background. I didn't grow up riding motorbikes. I kind of got into them after a pretty life-changing accident, and now I'm pretty safely say I'm addicted to all things two wheels. So I do trials bikes, I do big desert rally bikes, I do adventure bikes, I do road bike, I've done a track day, any kind of motorcycle, and I'm happy about it. I also work on the bike, so I'm here in my garage as well. And for me, it's all about trying to prove that I still can. I live and manage chronic pain, so none of it's necessarily easy. And I only started off-roading about 6 years ago, but I'm doing some of the toughest races in the world and sharing that on social media. So I've got social media platform, you can find me as the Girl on a Bike, and that's pretty much me in a nutshell. So I'm a motorcycle rider and racer. And I think I've got about 4 seconds left, maybe, I don't know. Oh, that's really hard. A minute? How long's a minute?
How did you get into motorbikes?
So, short story, I was 20 years old. I was a student at university, did a work placement in the Bahamas on a very remote island, was broke, so couldn't afford a car. Decided I'll get a motorbike. I'd never ridden one, there wasn't one on the island, so I got one, shipped in, came in a box, oh my goodness. Anyway, I used this bike around the island for the year that I was there, strapped my spear down the side for spearfishing, came back to the UK to finish my masters, and never saw myself as a motorbiker. Thought I'd get my full license, didn't ride for years and years and years, didn't see myself as a biker. And then after my accident, I could no longer commute to work. And so motorbikes suddenly became this thing. And what no one warned me about motorbikes is N+1. You always want another one, and just like little black dresses, all the little different motorbikes are perfect for different things. So it started with a cruising Harley Davidson, and it's escalated to full hard enduro and desert rallies now. So all kinds of motorbikes in my world.
So tell us, what's your favourite bike and why?
Favourite bike, I would probably say, if I was only allowed one, this is ignoring the rule of N+1, obviously, I would probably go for Husqvarna TE300i. So Buddy, the bike that I did Red Bull Romaniacs on, is a 250, but I would upgrade. My dream bike would be the 300, just to have a little bit more help in some of the bigger hill climbs. And I love it because the satisfaction of the most ridiculous terrain that you can conquer on a little 2-stroke hard enduro bike, they're indestructible. You can like throw them off rocks, fall on boulders, crash over logs, and they just kind of get back up and go, cool, that was fun, mum, let's keep going. So I would definitely say it's going to be a 2-stroke. I love the fiery engine power of a 2-stroke versus a 4-stroke. So yeah, 300 TE Husqvarna would be my dream bike, and making sure it's got all the protection that it needs on it too.
So your favourite place to ride and why?
Oh, this is a good question. I've been really lucky over the last few years to ride in, I think I'm up to about 23 countries in the world. And I would say Iceland. So Iceland is horrific when it comes to the weather. It is like the coldest, the wettest, the windiest, the most harshest environments. And then it might be sunshine and blue skies, but then 10 minutes later you're back wet. So you're wet from above, from below. But when you're out there in the right kit, you're dry, you're warm. I was on a 701 and I've also done it on an Africa Twin. You are just blown away constantly by the scenery. You've got lava fields, deep sand, volcanic, it's just the land of wows. Every corner it changes, and it's just the most breathtakingly beautiful place. And I love the Icelandic people. They're really lovely. The food's good. Iceland would definitely be my
Tell us about your best moment on a bike.
best moment on a bike. It probably goes hand in hand with my worst moment on a bike. So I did the Tunisia Desert Challenge earlier this year, which is arguably one of the most extreme, difficult motorcycle races out there. It's more technical than Dakar as far as the riding, and it's got harder navigation than Dakar. 475 kilometer days, and there was a moment in the sand dunes where I was like at my max. I was done. I was giving up. I couldn't go any further. I managed to get going, keep going again. I then unfortunately had a bike malfunction and ended up having to stay in the dunes. And it was the most terrifying, worst moment possible, having a night in the dunes. I made a campfire, I got my survival kit out. But then looking back, it was so magical and so life-changing. Because like even now, if I'm home alone in my little cottage, I don't get scared. I've survived in the desert on my own. And it kind of
Your worst moment in life? I mean, on a bike.
Oh no! I think I might have just answered that because my worst moment turned into my best moment. And I think that's the reality of sometimes something I've realised is that you can only grow outside your comfort zone. So if you want to grow, become a better person, braver, more skilled, you've got to push your comfort zone. And it's when you get that growth, for me, I find I get the most satisfaction. Like pushing myself into, I don't know, Red Bull Romaniacs absolutely scared the life out of me. Would I even make the finish line? Well, maybe I won't make the finish line, but at least I'll try. And I guarantee I'll grow and I'll learn whilst I'm trying. So I think my worst and my best moments so often link together. And at the time, I'm hating myself. Like, why am I even on this start line? Why am I here? I'm going to die. I'm not good enough. I'm going to hurt myself. But then you focus, you process I've just got to ride the bike, take 1 meter at a time. And at the end, it becomes the best thing because you achieved it.
Who are your heroes and who are your influences?
Oh my goodness, that's a really long list. I think it's... this is a really, really hard question. There's just too many. I don't necessarily think it's motorbike world because in the motorbike world, I haven't been in it that long. I mean, I've been off-roading for 6 years. I know I got the bike in the Bahamas, but I've only really been in the bike world for about 7 years now. And so that makes it more difficult. But when I watch people like Billy Bolt, Tony Bow, they are absolutely witchcraft incredible motorbike riders. And I look at them and I go, they are just humans. They haven't got any kind of magic superpower. I mean, they obviously do because they're crazy skilled. Or Leah Sands, Dakar rider, female, where these people are just normal humans. And it reminds me that if they can do it with their bodies, why can't the rest of us learn? We just got to put the effort in and try.
So what's next for you?
To continue to... Basically, I want to grow and get better at riding. And it doesn't mean I'm going to spend loads of time on one motorbike and focus solely on, say, trials riding. I actually find that my riding improves the most by getting on loads of different types of bikes because it all kind of helps expand and warp and shape your skill set. So there's going to be all kinds of different bikes. I even want to try doing flat track. Lunatics, they have no brakes. What is this? So basically, lots more riding. I'm going to continue to try and get into as many schools as possible. I really love doing my motivational speaking, inspirational speaking stuff. So basically, anytime I can share my story of going from the accident, I had 7 surgeries and pretty brutal, then that makes me feel good.
Okay, Vanessa, final question. Now, you've been working a lot in schools with the younger generation. Just tell us why this is so important to you.
Because the world is really damn hard. I know it myself from being hit by the car, that life as you know it, life as you know it can change like that, really, really instantly. And kids at the moment, particularly with COVID and everything going on, I want to try and show them some of the things that I've learned that have helped me cope and get back up and keep fighting on and set goals and realise that actually they can do absolutely anything they want to do in life. And if I can engage them with my story as a cool biker, apparently they think I'm cool. So they engage with me not like a teacher. So anytime I can go into a school and give my time for free and help the kids, then it's just giving. And I think we need more giving in the world, basically. So yeah.
Insightful Interesting? Fun?
Yeah, pretty intense. That little bleep buzzer, that's going to be in my dreams, seriously. Stop talking.
Now, last episode, you would have seen the segment about Lara's race weekend.
Which didn't go exactly according to plan, but if you didn't see it, here's a quick recap of what happened and what happened next.
When you hear about people, when you're just about to go out and you hear that someone's had an off, does that like worry you at all, or is it just
You kind of... No. I know what I'm going out to do. It's testing, so sometimes people get carried away. I think it's interesting to know why they crashed, but we'd never know that quickly. But no, this is what could happen, and it does. You want to know, like, it's bad when someone gets hurt. You feel then, but crashes are quite common. You know, we race closer to the limit and we don't sit in a cage, so it does happen.
Have you seen her come by? So we've got a red flag. We were walking our way around to this corner, so we haven't seen Lara yet. Hopefully she'll come past or is already in the pits. Is that her there? But always a worrying moment, and someone's had a bad day at least. So we've just got back to the garage, found out that Lara's in the medical centre, so she's concussed at the moment, so they won't let us see her just yet. So we're going to grab some bits and pieces and she has to go off to hospital for a checkup. So we'll see how that goes and let you guys know. So we've been scrutineering now when we've left the medical centre. They've released the bike to us. It does look like superficial damage. It's not horrendous at all compared to some other accidents. We've also got her helmet, and they did say she was unconscious when they got to the scene, and she was possibly unconscious for a minute or two, so that's not great, but the damage on the helmet isn't too bad, so we've got high hopes and really hope that she's in good condition, but they're still checking her out.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, that could have gone better. Bye. You've got a little hat.
Enjoy the bike.
Why am I in here? Sorry.
So I managed to catch one of the marshals, a friend of ours, Gordon. Great chap. All the marshals are fantastic and really help the riders out. He said he thinks what happened that she lost the front end going into Cascades, which I think is a downhill corner that's very fast, and they don't really know how she was knocked unconscious, so it's probably just slid the bike out and maybe hit the floor, possibly the Armco on her way down. So that's all we know so far, but it's great of them to let us know and keep us posted on what's happening.
bad news?
So yeah, she's now messaging in the group, so that's a good sign. Justina's with her as well. They're still on the way to hospital, but she seems pretty perky and saying she's going to be back for a barbecue this evening, so hopefully she will continue to the hospital and get checked out properly, because that's what should be done for good medical reasons, and Justina will make her do that as well. But with that in mind, let's hope she is back for the barbecue later and we can have her do a little piece of camera later as well.
So now you know she's okay, is that a bit of a relief?
Massive relief, yeah. It can be worrying at these times. Obviously, it's good to see her sort of up and about and whatever, and that really helps. Or if they walk away from the accident, but with a head injury and everything as well, you do worry it could be sort of hidden damage and things like that. So worrying times, but a lot happier now that she's texting and sort of making sense in some messages. That's a good sign. So she'll be back to normal in no time, hopefully.
So the last thing we saw there was you were on your way to hospital. The first thing I heard about it was Tom ringing me ever so worried, obviously. But can you pick up the story for us from there? What happened?
Sure, okay. So I'd come round in the medical centre. So I remember kind of almost like coming back into focus. I was sat upright. I had Justina there, my trusted pit crew. And the doctor was just checking through some, I guess, a basic ability to look and see and think. And once they'd ascertained that I was, the first stages of being all right, I was then wrapped up, as in they'd clipped me into this stretcher, and I was then being taken on into the back of the ambulance and then driven to hospital. So I felt really, really nauseous. Especially with the fact that you're travelling backwards, you lose any sense of perspective in the back of the ambulance. But I thought it pertinent at the time to use my phone or message and send a video, thinking I was going to convince everyone I was all right, but probably clearly showing symptoms of concussion. Made it to the hospital, and whilst we're waiting to get seen, there was an air ambulance outside, of which I was immediately fascinated with. I'm an engineer at heart, so I was the pilot was taking me around the various bits of machinery it had. And then I had a CT scan, of which it confirmed that there was absolutely nothing inside my head, as I expected. And that was, quite confidence inspiring because they didn't pick up any abnormalities, and then I got discharged. So one of the things that is really important for every racer is that if you have an accident, you want to understand why. Crashes do happen. It's kind of part of the sport. We don't have a cage around us to stop certain things, so it sometimes happens. And knowing exactly what happened and be able to understand it is really important. And that's what I found most difficult about my incident, because it's quite literally a memory off moment.
So you don't remember at all what happened? You can't.
No.
You can't pinpoint this, that.
No.
Nothing at all.
I remember talking to Tom just before I left, and then waking up back round in the med centre. And that it brings home how important it is to take kind of these calculated risks while we go racing, and to do that with the support of the people around us. So I used to take a fair few amount of risks on the road, and I needed to stop doing that. And I needed to, that urge, that desire to race, had to be sated in a race environment. So we do it on closed circuits with marshals who are genuinely brilliant, volunteering their time, who are at every corner. We do it under the kind of scrutiny of a camera system and the race organisers, an absolute credit to Thundersport GB. They really, really do run a tight ship. So I really love racing with them. The marshal team are genuinely amazing. And if we make mistakes, we are collected off the circuit, have immediate medical help. And then depending on the severity of that, you're either getting walked off, your bike's taken out of the way to protect every other racer out there, or you're getting stretchered off straight into an ambulance, and if you really need it, an air ambulance. And that's what makes the sport so much safer, because you've got the immediate help. And what really mattered in my scenario is that I was able to contact the marshals that saw the incident. So instead of the questions about was it cascades, did I lose the front, I needed to know. I ended up just messaging one of the marshals. I go, look, what actually happened? And it was totally different to what I thought. It was Hislop chicane I came off at, which is you basically, you're downhill on the brakes before it's a sharp right, a quick left, and then a right again. Okay. And what had happened is that I'd braked later than usual. Obviously, I'm trying to improve my lap time, and the back end of the bike had just kind of come round. He used the word Marquez, which is incredible. What a compliment.
Well, they call it backing it into the corners, is that
yeah,
what
apparently so.
Yeah.
But it had kind of snatched on the front brake, the bike had stepped, and then it just snapped back.
Okay.
And whatever that momentum meant is that I was thrown forward and left, and I hit my head on the left-hand side of the track, which explains why my helmet is covered in a bit of mud, and I'd knocked myself out. So I hadn't lost the front. It was on the brakes, and it snatched and threw me off. So it was a slightly weird crash, but again, collected off the circuit, straight to the medical centre, straight to having a CT scan. You know, within an hour, 2 hours later, and then like a clean bill of health, apart from take painkillers and chill out for a bit. It's really the team at the circuit and my pit crew being there and having the marshals there. It just helps so much as a rider.
And how about for you? Has it changed your perspective of you riding and what you want to, for racing, and what you want to get from it, or whether you want to carry on doing it?
Well, I've crashed multiple times, so I've been racing for about 5 years, and there's a variety of quite scary moments on track. So that isn't just one crash. It's kind of part of the sport, and some people crash more than others. We do ride and race closer to the limit, and I've found that limit a few times and learned from it. I'm trying to find a way of describing it. I think that crashing is really over sensationalized. The best bit about racing is 90% of the time it's kind of sticking your elbows out, braking late into a corner, fighting for apexes, rubbing shoulders with your mate. I mean, the start...
It's doing the racing.
It's racing. Yeah. When those lights go out, and I still remember it so vividly at Brands Hatch, my first ever race, Brands Hatch, CB500, and the lights go out, and you're just tearing it into Paddock Hill Bend, and just that feeling of finally, taking the blue pill or the red pill and just going for it. It's just it's so exhilarating. So yes, I've crashed, but I'm addicted to that feeling and that.
So will you carry on? Will you carry on racing?
Of course I will. Yeah. Of course I will. I just need to be realistic about whether I've got all the time to do a championship. Because a lot of the consequences of getting it wrong don't start at the time you made that mistake on that corner. You've got to reverse engineer it to where you got to in the first place. We're not athletes. We all have full-time jobs. We've got to pay for racing. It's not, and it's so important to have a pit crew that are helping. But all the packing, all the sorting, all the bike, all the mechanical work, all the loading, all the tent setup, it all has to happen before you get to that point. And that can lead to a level of exhaustion and fatigue before you've even got out on the track. So that's what I would do better, if I've got more time away.
But the most important thing for me is you're here without trying to over-sensationalise what happened. Yeah. You're here, you're safe, it hasn't put you off racing, and it's kind of a good end to something which was not good. Yes. But it's a good end to it.
Yes, and although I've finished for this year, Justina, she made this book of happy memories, and it's a little picture book of the whole season. And you look back, instead of thinking about, okay, we made a mistake, I made a mistake at Oulton, I definitely made a mistake at Oulton, but the whole season of its highs and lows, and giggles and laughs over the barbecue and the birthday cake, and the mistakes, and the fun bit of it, and the camaraderie, and across the whole army team. It's in that weekend, you live a life, everything stops. It's almost like nothing else matters apart from your lap time and your tyre condition. It's almost like a switch off of everything else in life. It becomes life is racing, everything else is just waiting. And I think that's what I'm going to miss when I don't do a championship next year. I'm going to miss the most. But kind of look back on it on the relationships I've made and the people around me.
All right. Well, thank you for being so candid about it. I wouldn't expect anything else from you, but that's brilliant. Thank you.
No worries, Graham.
So things are really hotting up in the Motorbike Olympics.
Yep, we've got our bikes, and now it's time to ride.
I won the Motorbike Olympics, you know.
Run it.
No.
Yes.
All right, boys and girls, this is how it's done. Yeah, well, that was okay. I was a little nervous about that.
Okay, let's go. My trusty little
Until
Himalayan.
it's time to win.
You're going to do all the work for me. Climbs away. Very happy with you, little Enfield.
Go. There you go.
What's happening here, Graham? The last time I saw you on the dirt track and you managed to get stuck on a little bump. Oh, the chain's off.
Yeah.
How did you manage that, my friend?
I don't know. Poorly adjusted bike.
So I reckon we roll it back to the camp.
Right, that's some
Graham?
front on. Yes, Tom.
Why is it always you?
That shouldn't stretch back on though, that's the problem.
No. Just roll it back.
Oh, I like your plan. Not quite biting. Oh, there she is. She's on.
So Graham, let's just sum up what happened there. You saw Charlie doing something cool. You thought, well, if Charlie's doing something cool, I want to do something cool too. And what happened?
Thomas, I resemble that comment.
You resemble it? You do resemble that comment, you're right.
It's just...
Why not?
Any member of the team can go, oh look, let's go and do challenge accepted.
Yeah, exactly.
Brain switches into neutral. No sense of what's a good thing or bad thing to do. We both went careering towards
The drop
both
off.
the drop off and the ditch.
Yep.
Of
Brave choice.
course, I took the brave line back up the hill and tried to get up the slope. At which point the chain decided it didn't like being on the sprocket.
Slow
Just like
down.
that.
Well, next adventure incoming.
All fixed. Right, Mark said that was actually kind of the easy, just get our ear in, feet in, arms in. Eye in, that's the word. Just to get our eye in.
Ear in, did you say? Your ear, did you say?
Just get your ear in.
Get your ear in.
He means
I meant.
Oh yeah.
We got our eyes in.
Yeah,
I thought you said ear in. I thought,
I did.
God, I've not heard
I
that
couldn't think of the word. Anyway, we got our eye in, and we were all even Stevens, so it's all level at the moment, which is good. It's a good start. Everyone's doing well.
Well, if it's all going to be even Stevens, then how are we going to judge it?
We got a special thing for you at the end.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, it's even Stevens now, but it's going to get much harder.
Things gone.
Yeah, we all did okay, I think is the point that Graham's trying to make.
Yes. Just a nice simple stuff.
Except I did better, right?
Kind of.
course.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
actually, who's the only one who didn't drop their bike?
I don't know. Well, who's the only person who got their bike stuck?
Whose chain broke?
And who's Timber? Yeah.
Anyway, round two.
Moving swiftly on.
Round two. So the bikes, Charlie, you're going to be on the Himalayan. I will be on the KTM. Christy will be on the CCM, which leaves Sarah on the lush little Sinus.
Yeah, or Lara. It's up to you.
I think Sarah
I'm
suits you
going to be
better.
Sarah for the next
Yeah,
segment.
you did say Sarah.
Sarah on the Sinis.
So which bike
I
did
said
you say
Sarah
I was on?
Linus.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Oh,
Alright.
dear.
Anyway,
It's going to be a
I'm
long
going to give up.
day.
I'm going to give up. Right.
Well, that CCM, I have to say, was really good. The steering lock was a little short, but the only thing of that off-road is the seat is really
Yes, but
really
at
hard.
least you managed to keep your own chain on. I think that's the best sense of achievement.
And I didn't fall over either.
You did. You came off at the top of the hill.
I did not.
It was just off camera.
You saw
I
that.
can't believe you were off camera when you came off the top of the hill. But yes, my chain did come off.
If it makes you feel better, you know, I came off.
Thank you.
Okay.
We heard you. We heard you, Charlie.
Yes.
Graham, this is your line now. The seat says.
Oh
Thanks.
yes. Right. Well, thanks, Charlie.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for watching. In the next episode, we swap BMWs, and you'll see more from our adventure in the Peak District. But until then, ride safe.